Good morning, Waller Group. Thank you for joining us, and hopefully you like the new time. We'll try to run through this pretty quick today. Congratulations on our KDNA participants. Last week we had fantastic numbers from Angela, so I want to give a real shout out to Angela. I talked to her this morning about what some of the outliers were, where did she generate some of her activities. So she has 3 listing appointments scheduled for this week. And that's because I've noticed very consistent behavior with Angela over the last few months, and that the momentum is now, she's seeing the results of her momentum, and those are turning into listing appointments. So out of those 3 listing appointments, 1 was from her Geo Farm, 1 was a referral, and another from her Sphere of Influence, another referral. So that's doing exactly the things that are the most profitable in your business, which is number 1, your Sphere of Influence will always be your most profitable business. And then number 2, your Geo Farm is also profitable. She's calling and prospecting on a daily basis, almost 2 hours a day, around just listed, just sold, and also in her Geo Farm. So congratulations to Angela. Kudos to you. She had 1,000 postcards that were mailed last week of just sold properties. So that kind of ties into a lot of what we're going to be talking about at tomorrow's sales meeting, and also briefly today about your business plan review for 2015. And that's one of the reasons I just sent you an email about why I'm so excited about your 2015 business plan. A lot of it has to do with the co-marketing services that we have with our preferred vendors. So having their helping you financially with your just listed, just sold, and your I have a buyer postcards, then that, I know we've been tweaking and refining this over the last couple months. It's taken us longer than I'd like. Just this last weekend, we finally have templates finalized on a lot of these things. So they're very good, and they're templates that won't be changing or being revised a lot, because they're very, very good templates. So we're very pleased, and we'll have more of those finalized that we can roll out tomorrow, and they'll be in Back Agent. We're hoping they'd be in Back Agent by now, but it's going to be another several weeks before they're actually in Back Agent. But Jeremy can help you with the direct mail fulfillment on that. Another thing I talked with Angela about this morning is the time that she spent on these postcards and on some of this administration work. That's where we want to alleviate some of the burden from you guys on any administration tasks. We know that your highest profitability is when you're in front of your Sphere of Influence, when you are making contacts, because it's the contacts that generate the contracts, right? So those are the things that any administration work, let me know, let Richard know what we can do to alleviate that from your plate. Some of you have assistants that you utilize, but some of you that can't afford assistants, then we want to be that assistant for you. And the requirements, the bar that you have to meet to have some of this co-marketing assistance is very low. You know, 1 closing a quarter with our preferred vendor, whether it be Prospect Mortgage, Service First Mortgage, Reunion Title, then them to co-pay for these postcards is a huge, huge benefit. And that's one of the reasons I'm so excited, is that when I was an agent 10 years ago, I didn't have those benefits. It was all on me. So my marketing, and for me to be able to really market the way I wanted, took longer than, and it takes a lot of agents. Sometimes it takes them years before they can really afford to market themselves the way they want, to where the tools that we're giving you guys and the marketing horsepower and allocation of expenses from our vendors has really, really helped. So I want you to take advantage of that. I was also looking at Kathy's numbers, fantastic numbers for Kathy, 300 flyers that she put out and 65 contacts. So Angela had 55 contacts that she made last week, a lot of those from her Sphere of Influence and just listed, just sold. And then Kathy, 65 contacts. Kathy does a lot of public speaking, so that's a great way to generate those Q&A. That's an engagement, and that's contacts. And then Kathy had 2 listing appointments, and Angela took a listing last week. So fantastic. Tammy also had 2 sales open. Good job, Tammy. Kudos to you. And then also Brenda had two transactions open. Wesley also had 2 transactions open and took a listing as well. And Nina also had a closing. Good job, Nina. So the other things that we saw referral pipeline, pipeline ROI. The leads are leads over $120,000. I just finished our management meeting, so that's one of the things that's going to help streamline some of these calls. Now that we have the 11 o'clock call, I can have my management meeting first, and we can have some numbers that are a little bit more timely than what we've had in the past, so we won't be behind a week on some numbers. But so I apologize for skipping around, getting used to this new time. Angela had 80 voice-to-voice contacts and closed a Hyperion transaction. So Hyperion, that's a great tool for you guys. We are an approved brokerage with Hyperion. So this being sometimes November, usually November and February are the slowest months, sales months out of the year. So use this time to do some things that you may not do in other times of the year. And Hyperion is a great tool to create engagements and create transactions with buyers that there's a lot of people that still can't qualify for mortgages, but yet they're renting and they'd like to be in a home and they'd like to lock in good pricing. When prices are appreciating in the Metroplex at 9% a year to 12% a year for the last year, and they can have a Hyperion home and lock in at just a 5% appreciation rate and not have to have the expense of moving again, guys, this is a no-brainer. So take advantage of this. It's a fantastic marketing tool. It's a fantastic way to generate more buyers that will be qualified later down the road to purchase that property. Wes did an amazing job. I think he is leading our listing contest as well, and picked up a buyer and a seller from a referral, and a buyer and a seller from a sign call. So when you look at where leads come from and the quality of leads, the signs still today, other than referrals are always the most profitable, but sign calls will be the most profitable lead generation that you can possibly do. So the more listings you have, and the more signs you have, and those signs generate calls. And an inquiry on a sign, when they actually drive to the property, whether they've seen on Trulia, Zillow, Realtor.com, their mobile devices, then they go drive to the property. The next action that they make is that appointment. So these sign calls now, I would say, are 4 times more important and more valuable than they were 5 years ago, before people had so much information on their fingertips, to where now they have so much at their fingertips. When they pick up the phone and call on that sign, these are very highly motivated people. So make sure, guys, you're taking advantage of your sign calls. Not a lot of you have a strong listing inventory. So that's one of the reasons we're always preaching about generating your listing business development, your listing inventory, because it generates those sign calls. Those sign calls are great for your team, and that's great buyer leads for your team. That no matter how much you spend on lead generation or on registrations or other lead generation models, nothing is as valuable as those sign calls. And when I had my team with 6 buyer agents, my lead generation was strictly from sign calls. My average buyer agents were selling 4 transactions a month. So make sure that you're focused on that. I want you guys to be focused on the right things. Corey, closing schedule for next Monday, working some buyer leads. Frederick has 4 listings, 1 under contract, working a deal on another 3. Amanda, she picked up another investor buyer as a referral from another investor that she's working with. So great job, Amanda. And Ashton, 50 voice to voice, and he's been working on prospecting on a daily basis. So kudos to Ashton, good job on that. Okay, so I want to talk a little bit about your business plans. We have several business plans that Richard and I were reviewing this morning. We have a very, very simple schedule for your business plan for the office. We've tried to keep it as simple as possible. You guys are business owners. You run your own business. So most business plans for a typical business, it's a stack of papers, sometimes 20 to 50 pages, 100-page business. I've looked at business plans that are 40 to 50 pages long, sometimes longer. If you're running your own business, you have to have a thorough, comprehensive business plan. This is something I used to spend weeks and weeks on when I ran my business, my team, years ago. And with that being said, I wanted to talk a little bit today about what are the components of a top producer, and what does a top producer's business plan look like. So a top producer, number 1, is an agent, to me, that is closing 10 million or more in annual sales volume. I personally have not closed anything less than 10 million in sales volume for over 10 years. So make sure that when you're talking about top producers, or that you are looking at business plans of peers or other agents, make sure that you're focused on a top producer business plan, if that's the way you want to run your business. Everyone is different for everyone, but today I just want to talk about the context of a top producer, what I think a top producer is. Now, 10 million in annual sales volume, I would say, would be the low side of a top producer. I was doing 79 million in annual sales volume at the peak of my my career as an agent. So that's a lot different. You know, that's about 9 times the amount of volume that a typical top producer does. But for today's, within context of today's, let's talk about a typical top producer. So that's an annual income of about 300,000 a year in gross commission income. That affords you the ability for a personal assistant, and depending on your average sales price and depending on your number of transactions a year, will drive the dynamics of your team, what your team needs to be, what your team needs to look like, what the structure of that team is, and what's going to generate the most profit for you. Because at the end of the day, that's what I want for you guys, is to make as much profit as possible. And if you're in a high average sales price, then more than likely you need 1 assistant and 1 marketing person, and with 2 people, you're set. If you're working at a lower average sales price, you're going to have more buyer agents. You're going to have a larger team in order to have the same amount of profit. So a lot of this is driven by your average sales price per transaction. So that's something that's such an important fundamental component to your business plan. The other component is contacts. You know, how are you making your contacts, and are those where are those contacts coming from? So your sphere of influence, how are you marketing your sphere of influence to build that credibility with your sphere of influence, is going to generate those referrals, just like that referral from Angela when her geo farm. She obviously now has a consistency, and she had credibility in that geo farm to where she was able to generate that listing referral. That doesn't come with just 1 or 2 postcards. That takes time. That usually takes 6 months to a year and a half, consistency and time. And that's another trait of a top producer. No one's a top producer unless they're consistent with their behavior and they're consistent with their systems. So that's another thing I mentioned in the email that we're going to talk about today, are systems and systems of a top producer. So that's another thing I want to talk to you on a one-on-one basis. What are the systems that you have in place? Whether it's your CRM system, are you using top producer CRM? Are you using Insightly? Are you using what we provide for you, Conversion? So there's different tiers for different types of agents, and I would say Conversion's on the low tier. That system's primarily for buyer lead generation and buyer lead management. The highest tier I would say would be top producer, because it focuses on your sphere of influence and maintaining consistent touches to those people that are in your sphere of influence that are going to generate those referrals for you. So that's something that we really have to talk about on a one-on-one basis. The other systems that are in place is, what is your marketing? We're going to talk about this more tomorrow. We want to streamline your marketing to where your marketing, your sphere of influence, is just as consistent and as cost-effective as possible. And the quality of how you're marketing consistently to your sphere of influence will directly dictate the type of results that you're getting and the type of referrals you're getting from your sphere of influence. But it's not as effective unless you pick up the phone call. So they say a postcard or a direct mail piece is 9 times more effective if it's followed up by a personal phone call. Think about that, guys. Think about all the money that agents spend on direct mail, on postcards, on marketing, and it's 9 times more effective with a phone call. So that's why our KDNA numbers and those weekly contacts are so important to monitor in line with the marketing and what you're spending on marketing and on your sphere of influence, and building that credibility on a monthly basis in your geo farm as well. 2,000 to 3,000 pieces of mail or flyers or touches should be going out consistently every month to that geo farm. Are you generating 30 to 40 transactions a year from that geo farm? You should be. So those are the things that, if you're doing the things that we teach with consistency, you will be you will be generating 30 to 40 transactions a year from your geo farm. And those are listings. Every listing should generate 2 buyers. So guys, if you just do the basics on what we teach on that geo farm, then you'll have a team in no time. You know, I think Wes is a great testimonial to that. Being focused on that geo farm, he's a buyer's agent, and the team kind of comes as a default if when you're just doing the basics and if you're consistent with those basics. So that's something I want to talk with you guys individually about this week. I'll be out of town next week for Thanksgiving. I'll be available on email. I won't have anything else to do, actually. I'll be in the mountains in Colorado. So not so much on the phone, but via email. I'll be working, and I want to work with you guys before the holidays and this week and with Richard to get these business plans refined and to address any questions and make sure that we're on track for a very profitable, productive 2015. Don't forget about the sales meeting tomorrow, 11:15 to noon, and we're going to show you, what these marketing pieces are, some examples, and then what we can do to streamline this until they're in back agent. Once everything's in back agent, then it will be a lot easier. But I'm still seeing a lot of things that are not utilized as much in back agent as what we'd like to see. The Mojo, for example, just click on Mojo. That link is in back agent, and the username, password, we try to make it very easy for you guys to use. That's a great tool. You can be prospecting on 3 lines at a time using Mojo. And there's a lot of other great tools that Erica and Jeremy were working on last week, refining and just polishing up some of what's in back agent. So the streaming videos, they'll be organized a little bit better in there. We're working on organizing some other training and some other modules for you guys in back agent where it's a little bit easier to reference. Okay, with that being said, I want to thank Brian for being here today. I did not tell him that we were changing the time on it, so I probably surprised him a bit there. Brian, do you have any announcements or anything?
Let's see here. Good Monday morning. Just going to send a little bit of information out with the email. Just please don't forget to scroll to the bottom of the outline, and I'll have some good information for you on some top producing behaviors. And that's about it. Don't hesitate to reach out to me for any mortgage needs or questions.
Kathy, do you have an announcement? All right. Thank you, Kathy, for being here as well. Okay, guys, have a productive and profitable week, and I will see you tomorrow at 11:15. And we have lunch following, so hope you enjoy. See you tomorrow. Oh, and our Thanksgiving lunch tomorrow. Have a good one.